Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to the Macro Lounge. I am your co-host, Chris Bold, joined by my partner in posing chaos and all things sparkly, the stunningly beautiful world champion, Rachel Mead. And if you're new here, this is where we talk about all things bodybuilding, mindset, physical health, mental health, all those sort of cool things, and obviously a fair amount of sparkles thrown in there as well. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure you hit follow so you don't miss any episodes. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe so you know when new ones come out. And of course, follow us on Instagram at macro_lounge podcast for highlights, clips, and the occasional oops, we fucked that up.
And today we have a very exciting guest who has done more in her one career than most people do in about 5. Chris, can you introduce our beautiful new guest?
Today we have an absolute weapon of a guest, Dr. Susan Baxter, PhD in movement science, award-winning educator, I had to write this down by the way, consultant across the world, former bikini competitor, founder of the AHA method, my god this is long, and the person who coaches that coaching clinics call when they're stuck, and quite frankly the only doctor I know who can rock a sparkly bikini and a show-stopping smile all at the same time. We're stoked and absolutely have her here with us. Let's get into it with Dr. Susan Baxter, who is joining us today from where?
From Bali today. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
I did quite well at that one, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Just list of all of those achievements.
I felt strangely inadequate going through that. I was like, Jesus Christ. Thanks.
It's like deep breath so you can have enough oxygen, so list them all.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, okay. I feel very, it's like watching, America's Got Talent. You think this is not fair. I feel bad.
I mean, you guys have been very kind, but at the same time, it's like, that is my hyper focus is nutrition, exercise, health. This is my hyper focus. We don't have many more hobbies outside of this, but just various levels of longevity and wellness.
You don't have time for hobbies. I mean, between traveling and all these things, it's like, what is a hobby?
See, that's the thing with hyper focus, Chris, that you're not understanding is that your hobby becomes your job.
Yeah.
And there's no difference.
You, my dear, would be a classic example of that. Because what do you do for a profession?
I make bikinis. That was my hobby. And now it's my job.
I just tell people to keep lifting it and don't eat it. That's very complicated, my world. So
yeah.
Can I eat this today, Chris? No. Anyway,
plan?
Back to our amazing guest, because it is not all about us today. Maybe another episode, not today. So, tell us about your competing journey to start with, because seeing as we're mostly a bodybuilding focused podcast, how did you get into competing? How long did you compete for? What was the journey?
Gosh, okay. Are you guys ready for the tea on this one?
I'm taking notes. Okay.
You're taking notes. The lesser known study or the lesser known story that I do tell when I'm giving talks in a related subject is that I was a Highlanders TV host. So I would interview the sports team, the Highlanders. And I wonder if they'll allow me to say this, but you got the exclusive here. It's recorded. I was at a Highlanders game, of course, in the corporate box. We were having our wines, and the Highlanders TV was actually sponsored by Optimum Nutrition. So Chris, I don't know if you know this story. You may not. I'll look for your reaction. So I was having a few wines with them, and they said, you do all of this like fitness stuff, you do Zumba classes, you do everything fitness related. Why don't you compete on a stage? And I was going, yeah, but it's not about me when I take people for exercise classes, and I'm not sure how I would feel about doing it. But then, of course, I had a few more wines, got a bit more Dutch courage, and I didn't remember agreeing to it, but then I woke up with a business card and it all kind of hit me. And I was like, oh no, because the Irish thing is anything you agree to do when you're drunk, you have to do when you're sober. So
it's a binding contract. It's a binding contract. It's well known.
And I know a lot of people who are Gen Z don't really drink these days. That was what happened. I agreed when I was drunk to do this. I did my first show and
drunk? I hope not.
No, not drunk, but I did my first show. I didn't quite understand how everything worked, but I was like, I'm just going to do this. Did my first show in Dunedin, and it was a NABA show, and I got second. Out of 2.
Oh no.
It was
at least she said it. She said it. Some people don't. They just claim I came second. That's it.
Yeah, out of 2. So at the time, I remember, and I hope the guy doesn't watch this, I was dating a guy who he wanted to be sponsored by Optimum Nutrition. And he was like, how does it feel to live my dream? You know? And he thought that he deserved this better than I did. So he was like, well, now you can help me, you know, with my dream, what he was doing at the time. As some people might know that timeline. But I was like, hey, wait, no, I qualified for nationals. So I'm going to do nationals. I mean, I didn't want to do it, but it was like a vengeful thing. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that I did back then that was like a vengeful thing. So I get up there. I don't know if you guys are ready for this. So I get up there. There's heaps of people in this show on nationals. And just before I'm about to go out, the same boyfriend says to me, sweetie, no one will care if you don't win. So I walk out on the stage with a level of sass I should not have had. Okay. And I was like,
That's fair. That is
I
absolutely
was
fair.
swinging my hair. I was like how I would be if I was trying to act hot if I was drunk, but that was me not drunk on a stage. And
And a bikini.
in a bikini. And so they started calling out like third place, and there was two people that were like the people that they thought were going to win. So it was between these two, but third place went to one of them, and I was like, okay, it's a bit of an upset. Second place went to the other person they thought would win, and so everybody was like, what is going on here? And then they called me out as being the winner of nationals.
You're like,
And I was like, what? So I won nationals that first
That is
year that
such
I
a
competed.
great
Yeah.
fuck you. It's such a great, like, fuck you.
You know, and the competitors will understand this, right? So after I won that show, I was like, sweet, now I can like eat a bit more of everything. A bit more of everything. I would never go all out because I'd always been in the industry for a very long time. But you're eating more volume than you usually would and more salt. So you like look a little bit puffy. Looking back at the photos that ended up on the front cover of the newspaper where they said, oh, we'll just come and interview you and we'll take a picture of your bikini. They told me to try it on and I had to pose without tan on with this. And I was like, not in shredded shape, but also like looking back now, I was in good shape. But I remember at the time being like, please, nobody, please do not purchase this paper that's got me on the front cover in a bikini. It's not good for
I
my
bet your
street cred.
I bet your parents have a framed copy of it.
They actually do. They actually do. They bought like 6 copies of it. They sent it back to Ireland. It was crazy.
Oh God.
So beyond there, I guess you could say I caught the bug only because I learned a bit more about my clients that I was always PTing, and I'd never had to lose weight before. So I always like, it's not that difficult. You know, you just eat a little bit less, move a little bit more. And so that actually taught me it actually is a bit more than just eat a little bit less. Like there's a bit more of a science to it to try and lose weight. So it was a good vehicle for that. So I did a few more shows, various federations, and then I think I did it in total for 4 years. I moved federations after I'd done some international competing. I think I got third in universes, which of course is bigger than worlds because the universe has different, I don't know, planets in it.
Aliens?
Aliens.
More
I got a
variety.
exactly. I got a trophy that's like half the height of me. I'm pretty sure, but it's half the height of me. And yeah, I moved federations. I think the last year I competed was just before I moved to Australia. And I unfortunately tore my subtalar. So I was like walking with a limp when I'd actually qualified for the Arnold's Hong Kong, which we just spoke about. So I still went to watch it, but I didn't get to compete in it because I was literally walking like I thought I was like a rap star, and I definitely was not. And that is not bikini style that it should be. Anyway, so there we go. Chris, did you know this story?
I knew bits and pieces of it. Yeah, I was like, yep, yep, yep. I remember that one. Yep. And we
So
won't name the young gentleman who had issues with you, going on stage at NABA because
It's wild.
yeah,
That is
great, huh?
he got what he deserved. That's what he deserved.
Hey, but there's
But
two ways to react to something like that. You pick the better one.
yep, you do the mic drop moment and you just as you go on stage. I mean,
But
who
I
could doubt
always
yours? I mean, I still say that you had the biggest smile I've ever seen on stage. Susan would walk on stage and it would just be like, you're like, Jesus. That personality came straight up. You're like, it's an Irish thing. Quick, take a photo.
great, take a photo. Love it. And also, I think too, like competing and that sort of thing, many people would erroneously think that I got sponsored by Optimum Nutrition because I was winning. But actually, it was more because I was personable and I was doing lots of cool things outside of it that
You could
I
hold your
did get
wine.
sponsored. Yeah, I could hold my
Well,
wine.
before you.
Um, before I was competing. They were the reason that I did compete. So I think that's a good learning point because a lot of people will think like my goal is to be sponsored by this and I will make my whole life into being a sponsored athlete. But at the same time, it's like people will find you when you're kind of being your authentic self.
Yeah.
100%.
And those things don't really happen these days. You don't see sponsored. Like when you were with Optimum Nutrition, I mean, you had the guy, like Steve Cook was with them, I remember, and you were
Yeah.
interviewing him. You know, a lot of guys from New Zealand. And, you know, being an Optimum Nutrition athlete was kind of like, I guess, like these days being a Gymshark athlete, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God, I'm in.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen these days because they don't give a flying about athletes now. There's so much more coverage in social media. So when you went through all of that process while you were doing your Bachelor of Science at the time, correct? When you first started,
I
did
think
the
I was
competing
doing my
change your educational route, or do you always go down that with the PhD for? You have to explain to everybody what your PhD is as well too, because you know.
well, okay, so my PhD, which for people that don't know, it's a postgraduate degree, which becomes like a book, okay? And each chapter of this book, if you're doing a science-based one, is, or health science, is a study. So it's a scientific study, each chapter of this book. So I've got a few of these thick books at home. I chose the cover of orange because you can pick whatever color you want. I'm a little bit different like that. No, you guys were talking about colors of bikini, but like I was choosing the color of my book for my PhD.
These are
It,
important. These are important.
these are important. But for my PhD, it was in overcoming barriers to exercise in people with chronic illness because I've always been obsessed with exercise and I wanted to find for people who had more reasons not to exercise, how we could help them to exercise because I still do believe that exercise can help us with many things, psychological, physiological, all of these things. And so I wanted to see why people who had more reasons to exercise, but also more reasons not to exercise, how we could get them into exercise. So that's what my entire PhD was about. And so I was studying that at the same time as competing, which was funny because I did get stopped a couple of times at the airport being like, you're a student. Why are you flying internationally so much? Like, where is this money coming from? I
Like,
was like, oh, it was quite nice. Yeah. So that's what my PhD was in. I was studying at the same time, and it was quite lovely too because what's usually now probably Gymshark sponsorship, I had that level with Optimum Nutrition, and we had like a Southeast Asia roadshow where we'd give presentations in various gyms around Southeast Asia, for example. So I got to fly internationally with that as well as compete.
So cool.
Yeah.
oh, the good old days.
Sadly, I was born a little bit too late for all of that.
All right, rub it in, rub it in. Yeah, all right. Yes. Anyway, yes. I would just count myself lucky that in my days of competing, we didn't even have social media, so it was great. I got away with a hell of a lot more than you guys did. That's just as
Don't
well.
get it.
Just as well. Back in the dark ages. So you competing, traveling around with Optimum. Almost feel like we have to explain who Optimum Nutrition is to half the kids out these days. It's not the one with the fancy label, people. It's the black and white one. It's boring.
Yes,
Um,
that's true.
it's not labeled unicorns and rainbows and shit like that. Did you find that the competing side while you were doing your PhD and writing the dissertation and all that sort of in the lovely orange colour? Thankfully, you didn't
Mhm.
wear an orange bikini because I might have had an issue with that. Just saying. Putting that one out there now. Orange as a bikini colour is in.
I would have had an issue with that.
Yeah, that would have short career. Did you get any lessons like discipline structure, navigating around burnout from the training that sort of you found maybe um, helped structure what you were doing around your PhD?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a really good point. So when you're studying a PhD, you have supervisors, but you're actually creating your own schedule every day. And so that's why they do things like they put a limit. So if you don't finish writing your PhD in 10 years, you're like canceled by the university and you can never study a PhD again and you don't get your PhD. It's not, you do,
Yes.
yeah, it's not
I'm
that,
thinking, gee, I can't stay in one country for 10 years. You want me to write a. Jeez. No.
well, we laugh, but a lot of people that study a PhD actually do it after they've had some career experience. And there's people that I met when I was competing that said, "Oh, I've started studying my PhD," and they still like they're doing it part time and they still haven't finished it now. And so we're talking, it's like yeah, almost 20 years later, because it's not like classes where you go to them and then you do an exam and it's at a certain time. It's you're actually organizing the entire scientific study, you're writing the chapter, and then also you've got to write this entire book, get all of your supervisors to agree to it, manage them, and then also submit it, and other testers go, yeah, this is at the right level for you to pass your PhD. So there's a lot more kind of ambiguity in it. So when you have that level of ambiguity, things like competing for me brought a really good level of discipline in there, because if you've got to eat, like I was eating every 3 hours, if you got to eat meals every 3 hours, then I would schedule my day with, what am I doing in this block? What am I doing in this block? What am I doing in this block? So it helped to build a really good structure into what I was doing. And there would be people that were studying a PhD and they simply, it's like they'd lost themselves and time and space and everything. And you'd go in and somebody might have been in the lab all night, overnight. You know, the place kind of has that smell about it of someone that's like pulled an all-nighter. And you'd be like, you haven't left yet, have you? And so that happened all the time. And there's actually rules at university for like, you need to have a place that you go to, even though the labs are 24/7. You can't be sleeping at the lab. You can't be working overnight too many nights in a row, these type of things.
See, we always talk about how food is the most important part of bodybuilding, and it's the greatest anabolic out there. But what you've just proven is it's the best study aid.
Yeah, it is.
It's the wonder drug. You just eat every 3 hours, problem solved. You've got structure. Right, Rachel,
Yes.
you taking notes?
Well, I did try to do that to an extent.
You were pretty good. Maybe every 4 hours. We'd go with that. Maybe every 4 hours.
No, see, my issue is I get carried away working, and then the block just gets longer and longer, and then I just don't stop.
See, that's what I set alarms for every 3 hours.
I ignore
So,
those alarms.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
just flick
you've got to
away
have
and
them
ignore them.
other side of the room.
Valerie has one of those water alarms that makes this little trickling water sound that reminds her so frequently that she should drink water. I would like to say that my wife doesn't drink 500 mils in a frickin' day. She's got like the alarm goes off every 20 minutes, so they're frickin' useless. She's going to come out in a minute and say, "I heard you." Probably text me.
This is recorded online.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble. That's all right. We got lots of.
But creating systems like that for your day to day, like that's a perfect example for drinking water, for example, or for some of my PT clients where they weren't able to drink enough water across the day, strategies such as get the majority of the 2 liters or whatever amount they need to drink out of the way early up in the morning. So they're actually just topping up during the day. They're not on the back foot. Things like that on how you can create this structure. Oh, look at this. He's drinking water. Well done.
That was a subliminal cue. It's like, I'm suddenly thirsty.
Yeah. That creates the different ways systems that you can do during the day. But these are things that you learn through bodybuilding when it takes for you to be doing things to the nth degree. You need to be obsessed by it. And it's not that it's unhealthy to be obsessed by it. It can be, but anything takes discipline, it takes hard work, and it takes for you to be putting a lot of focus into it. People don't become successful in life by accident.
Absolutely
No,
not.
I've tried.
So,
It doesn't work.
speaking of, tell us how you became so successful. So we know you've done some Zumba instructing, you've done some PTing, you're now doing coaching. Tell us the journey of how you've got from there and studying, then now to where you are.
I think the big question is also, where is this point now? Because it's like, I'm like, she coaches everybody. She's got a PhD. She's done this. She does public speaking. She does. What do you do?
What does she not do?
What do you not do? I mean, I feel just as again back to inadequacy. It's like I just need to get a life. Anyway.
So I work with gyms and work on their systems, the business systems. I educate PTs and gyms as well, because there's a lot of people that teach skill set when it comes to personal trainers and group fitness instructors. And there's a lot of people that teach business systems, but mine's actually like a Venn diagram. I also go through stuff in the middle, which is skill set that actually increases retention, for example, which feeds into business systems. So there's not a lot that goes across that. So in that, I've got licensable systems, and that's as a result of me working in the fitness industry for such a long time. I've worked in all facets of fitness, and I also can see what works by these systems that I even created through bodybuilding as well, where, you've got your alarm that goes off, you keep refining it. Yesterday didn't go that well when it comes to eating. You go into the next day going, hey, how do I tweak the day so that it takes more friction to not have success? The least amount of friction comes from having success. But when you're implementing systems like that into businesses, it makes them successful too. So there's a lot of crossover in bodybuilding systems, in bodybuilding kind of ways of doing things, and the discipline that also come from making a business successful as well, which is pretty exciting.
How did you transition into the, I guess, the business side of coaching and the system side of that? Because that's a big leap from PTing or Zumba instructing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm,
So
you know,
absolutely. So I was running multiple locations and like for myself, not for someone else. And in that, we were becoming more and more successful. So we're having to recruit more staff. And I noticed within that, the staff that we were recruiting had less and less that they'd learned from the course. Now, this is a reflection of how things have gone when it comes to personal training qualifications. And I have a lot of respect for what they're trying to do with personal training qualifications, but unfortunately, there's a lot of things that have been removed from exercise science, have been removed just to get people into the workforce faster, which is great. But I was finding that a lot of the new staff that we were recruiting needed a lot more mentorship than they used to need. So in that, where we're growing a business, but then we're having to mentor people. And then also on the side, we were getting people that were PTs in the area that were pretending that they wanted to be a client to see what we were doing. And so when we
that's
started, like,
crafty.
yeah, so I mean, unless they've actually learned through mentorship the nuance that's behind and the decisions that have got me to the place that the system is like this, not like this. We do it like this, not like this. Then they can try and copy it, but they won't ever get it right. So I noticed that there was a bit of a demand for getting people into a sort of business ready and skill set ready position that they could actually do really well and have fitness as a full-time job. So that's why I took the step back from the studio and have been doing business mentoring and education and my licensable systems, which I created through seeing what and constantly refining what worked across locations. Those are the things that I do now because they've been refined over hours and hours of time.
Yes, you've. So does this fall under what you call the AHA method?
Yeah, so
Okay.
AHA stands for Activity and Health for All. So I I made that name up actually when I was like, I think 17, and I did my PT qualification, and they said we had to have a business name for our personal training business. And
I
so
swear I
yeah.
thought you were gonna say 6 glasses of wine in for a second there. As I made that name
Yeah.
up, I was going, there's a pattern going on here, Christopher. I'm a bit worried. It's
The
the
best
Irish
ideas
blood in
come
her.
when
It's
you're
not her
drunk.
fault. It's
But
the Irish
but
blood. We can't blame her.
it's the Irish blood. Well, the thing I liked about the acronym is it's like that moment that people finally get, if you're talking about stages of change model where people are trying to get fit, where people are aware or not aware that they need to get fit, and then they start researching, and then they can still stay in those stages for a while, but there's this one moment that they go, I've actually got to go to the gym to get fit, and then they start doing it. That's kind of like an aha moment. And I thought,
That's cool.
wow, this is really good because it's activity and health for all. I didn't want to alienate people by calling it exercise or fitness. And then also it's about that aha moment when you get into exercise, when you start realizing that you actually have to do something and not just research it online.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I've just had a question pop into my brain. We kind of mentioned before, like with new PTs coming into the business, some of them are needing a lot more mentoring and training than previously.
Mhm.
What's kind of pinging off that? Do you think it has anything to do with, like at the moment, you can do like 6-week courses to get qualified as a PT versus people who do like a full 3-year degree?
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on people who do like the really short courses versus the degrees or the longer courses? Like, is there something that's like more beneficial? Is it person by person? Because yeah, obviously there will be some people listening who might be looking into doing something like that. So what's your thoughts around that?
Well, it depends your starting point more than anything else. So if you're already, I know that there's a lot of demand in, say, when you're registering for the Register of Exercise Professionals or you're going to work in a gym. If you're just studying exercise science, you can't actually say, here's my PT qualification until you finish that 4 years. But you might have done all of the stuff that's required to qualify to be a personal trainer. You might have grown up in the gym. So it depends where your starting point is. If you're someone who is brand new to exercise and you found exercise and it's changed your life, that's also a valid starting point. But on top of that, you're going to need a little bit more of a leg up in terms of the knowledge that you're going to require to acquire when you're becoming a personal trainer. So I'm not for or against, like a 12-week qualification versus a 3 or 4 year one. Both have their relevancy in the area. It's just, it depends on the person, and it also depends on what that person takes on board themselves to learn, like how they get further in the industry. And for me, I used to do where I would try and get mentored by people, or I would try and do where I would go to as many gyms as possible and write down what I thought that the really good instructors did differently from me, so that I could get that knowledge from being a participant. Because sometimes we don't think about what participants feel when they go to places, never mind, because there's a lot of psychology involved, never mind the actual skill set in itself, because there's a lot that goes into being a personal trainer. So yeah, so both have their role, and they don't have to be exclusive of each other, because you can be 3 years into an exercise science qualification and go, hey, I need some more of the practical skill set, which I'm not going to get if I'm in a particularly theoretical course. So therefore, maybe I'll do both of them. But yeah, there's been a lot, especially in Australia, more than New Zealand, I think, the amount of contact hours for university has been pulled all the way back for all courses. And so you're getting people that are like, I have 4 contact hours a week, so I can get a full-time job with you. And I'm like, that's great. But also, it's going to be a learning curve of hands-on learning on the job, which maybe the PT industry isn't actually properly set up to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's the PT industry globally, I guess, lacks standardization from a knowledge and experience perspective. And it's like, when you've got your shorter courses and your longer courses, and as I said, you're frequently getting people that just don't have that understanding of the psychology side behind it. They're so busy learning about the 17 different types of muscles in the shoulders, which frankly your clients don't give a flying fuck about. Do this, okay, it's your shoulders. Don't need to give them the detailed blow by blow of every single fiber and insertion and origin point. It's like they're like,
Exactly, that too.
it would be good to see a bit more of that. So obviously you do a lot of speaking. I know you speak with the Exercise New Zealand. You're coming to New Zealand shortly for their conference, I believe, which you'll be speaking at that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you also talk around things like fatigue, like long-term COVID, burnout, and you also mentioned, I read something before recently that you said something about, you talk about rigor without rigidity. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Rigor without rigidity. So I noticed one of the themes. So when I'm mentoring PTs, when I'm doing educational talks, but also when I'm mentoring PTs one-on-one or businesses, I notice that there's a lot of desire to just know what to do. They just want the answer without the nuance that's behind it. So when we add the nuance in, that's when you can make better decisions for someone based on the available knowledge. But for example, and this is an easier to understand one, when coaching one of the gyms that I mentor, they were saying to me that the new staff recruits may not have the same level of technique being as determined with the technique as with the clients as this person would have. And so I was saying to them that technique is more fluid than what they're coming up with. Now, I'm not saying you lift a deadlift with a bent back. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got these degrees of, this is an acceptable pass for a rep, and this one is like, stop moving, we need to tweak this technique. So there's different degrees and hierarchies and layers within coaching that if you're striving for excellence, you need to know these. And so one example of that is when I'm describing fatigue and long COVID to new groups, they'll often just put their hand up in the middle when you're trying to explain that there's 5 different types of long COVID, and they'll say, yeah, but what do we do? And you're like, I'm really excited that you want to know the answer to this, but unless you understand this background that I'm giving you, you'll actually not understand when the most applicable way to, deliver this answer to someone is, and when the most applicable time to do this is. Like, this is part of the process.
So obviously with what you're doing with helping people with their businesses and their mentorship and stuff like that, and with fatigue and COVID, long COVID being a focus of it, when you go into these new businesses, when they bring you in and to with your programming and all that sort of care, what's the biggest mistake you normally see that business is making when trying to support people with fatigue? Or is it just the processes in general are just not there.
So I also help people outside of fatigue as well, and I can work with businesses that have just started adding recovery and that sort of thing. But some of the big mistakes that I see businesses making is they aren't able to get the person that's running the business out of the business. Everything is reliant on the business owner, or if you look at the books, the business owner is actually working for free, and the profit of the business is okay, but the person who is what's wrong?
We're
Both of us.
I was like, oh no, what did I do? So the
You're just
problem is
describing us perfectly.
everything's hinged on this one person. So it's not a business so much as it's a brand, a personal brand for that person. But when you bring in processes, then you actually can get other people to run some of the things that don't require your focus. What I was thinking someone was in the background being like, hello, but really you guys feel called out by this, right?
We are very
That's
called
one of
out.
the
I can neither confirm nor deny that on the grounds that it may incriminate me, I'm just going to say.
Well, for me, for example, my brain thinks of top level stuff. I think in systems all the time, which is why when I'm talking about education for personal trainers and that sort of thing, I see where the system has failed people. I'm not calling out the people, I'm calling out where the system has gone wrong. We look upstream to stop it happening again. So when it comes to businesses that have become more like a personal brand business as opposed to a business that could run without you or some aspects run without you, we look at what are the things that aren't your zone of genius? And for me, I'm the ideas person, I'm the systems person, that sort of thing. I love building the systems. But when it comes to managing calendars, Chris, or that sort of thing, I'm better to get someone else who that's their zone of genius.
Me too, it's called my wife.
Yeah. So getting someone else who their zone of genius is the thing that you're like, this I would rather stick a fork in my eye than do, is one of the best ways to get started on scaling your business so that other people can help you increase the number of people in your business, increase the amount of volume of business that you're doing. But all that again depends, like, where do you want to get to with your business? For example, you can have businesses that are backed by venture capitalist funding, and with more complexity then becomes more stress because there's more people involved, there's more risk involved, but you could be making the same amount of money in a personally branded business. So the choice is, where do you want to put your chips? Where do you see yourself excited most? Maybe selling your business and doing something else afterwards. If that's what your go is, then you need to build systems. If it's a lifestyle business that you want to do it as you are, then potentially what you guys are doing is awesome. But one of the steps I would take is pick the stuff that you would rather stick forks in your eyes and get someone else to do that.
Have you been talking to my wife without me knowing? I'm starting to get it. I'm feeling a little ganged up on. I'm just putting that one out there.
To be fair, Valerie is guilty of that at the moment as well, if we remember the heat pressing situation. So she does all the merchandise.
She was very excited about that yesterday. She was it's the small things. They keep her happy. I'm fine. If it keeps
She was
my
also
wife
going
happy.
to outsource it, but
Yeah, well,
didn't happen.
famous last words.
Yeah, you can choose to outsource things if you want,
I
but
know.
that heat pressing, that would give me anxiety. I would feel like I'm gonna get this wrong, and then it would be like, who is wearing the one that's got like the bubbles in it?
Usually it's, yeah.
That's good. When you talk about systems and stuff, which is in the fitness industry, obviously, you're dealing with like studios and businesses. As you said, a lot of them are brand versus like if the owner can't step out of the business, which for my style of coaching is it's a difficult thing for me because people hire me, not one of my coaches, and I kind of want to avoid that. But also, I do understand from my perspective, I need to have other layers so that eventually I can either pass the baton on, retire, sell the business, or whatever like that. Do you think that particularly? I think you see it a lot more now. Obviously, there's a lot of trainers that come in and then they've got 1 year's experience, if that, and suddenly they're calling themselves an online trainer, and it's obviously driven by whatever. Do you think that that's something that those sort of trainers need to sort of look at it? Because I think a lot of them think that because they've got a couple of thousand followers on Instagram and they're going to get this business where they've got all these clients. How do you think systems, etc., can really help them to grow their business, as opposed to, say, there's some of those platforms out there where essentially they're selling you the same program everybody else uses, and unless you are a content creator, you're not actually going to be a successful online trainer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so those systems that you're talking about. So first of all, let's start with there's personal trainers out there for everyone. Like some people need a personal trainer that's just going to stand there and be like, run, and and like someone needs paid for that, right? But then you don't need to get the coach that's got, that's an IFBB head judge to be able to do that, right? So you've got coaches out there that suit everybody. And it's about making sure that you actually know what role of coach you play to begin with. So that's kind of like not necessarily niching down or niching down, but that's a big part of it. So working out who it is that you want to work with and you excel with, your zone of genius. And then on top of that, building systems around that. So for example, if you're someone who deals with a lot of clients that they actually are online most of the time, being an online coach probably works for you. If the person's exercised in the past, they know how to do the exercises, then that's a coach that would work for people that, have that prior experience. And systems for that coach, the online coach, could be, having technology that delivers the programming, whether it be one program to lots of people or personalized programming. And on top of that, having a system of check-ins to ensure that every week you're not scrambling and going like, who did I update the program off and who is still going? So you don't have, for example, somebody who's about to go into a bodybuilding show and the coach doesn't remember that they're competing tomorrow, and things like that. Although Rachel, you had it the other way around where you're like, I didn't remember I was competing tomorrow.
No.
So
Yeah, basically say Chris is my brain for when I compete. My brain just is switched off, and I am non-functional. I cannot be trusted to do anything. I tried to book accommodation or even look at it, and I was looking at the wrong dates apparently. So I got effectively banned. I got banned from all organization.
I do suspect that she was doing some of it intentionally. That was her method of delegating. It's like, fuck it up so badly, somebody else will do it for me. So that was
amazing.
where I thought it was successful too. It worked out very well.
Is it bad
I
if I
mean,
say it wasn't?
they've got that scathing name for that online. What's it called? Weaponized incompetence.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have learned that from other people in the past. It is a good trick. I unfortunately cannot claim to have used it at this stage with Chris.
No, that's pretty good.
You know the way people get like a fight name like embroidered on the back of their top? Like weaponized incompetence sounds like a really good name. I'm just
that sounds
saying.
really
Sounds
cool.
like a good team name. Weaponized incompetence.
But then somebody will think about it and be like, hang on a second, incompetence.
Yeah, there'd be the old bright spark at the back. Hey, he's talking about me. As if. Where are we? Okay. Sort of look a little bit about, I mentioned before we started, one of the reasons is, oh, by the way, just so anybody knows, Susan was actually the first person I asked to be a guest on the show. The first one, when we were looking, Rachel and I were talking about guests, she's like, who are we going to ask? And I said,
actually, months ago.
I know.
It's been months and he's been saying like, yes, we need to get her on.
So one of the things we wanted to talk about was that importance, I guess, particularly for young female athletes that are competing right now, either coming into the sport of competitive bodybuilding or they're looking at transitioning out of the sport of competitive bodybuilding, is I think Susan's a classic example, not a classic example, it's a unique example of looking beyond that and taking some of the skills and, if you like, the mindsets that you've learned to look beyond the stage. That there are more important things out there than what your next color bikini is going to be or what your next percentage oops, I got trouble for this. Did you see that facial expression there?
It's obviously the most important thing.
Well, yes, I know. Okay, Rachel, this is the most important thing. She's going to watch out. She's going to bust out her swatch board in a second. Watch. She's very proud of it. She's did very well. Look, here it comes.
Sneak peek for anyone watching. Got some new swatch boards for all my fabrics, so it's all nice and organised.
See, look how organised.
Systems.
Is this like Pantone colors? This is the original, refer back to the color that was selected.
Yeah. So it's nice and easy for me to find what fabric people have actually ordered rather than me looking at the photo and being like, okay, which one was that? I do take a photo of it usually though, rather than try to name it, because sometimes if I name it and I'm like, there's like 3 different shades of a very similar fabric.
Yeah.
So like, I always take a photo just in case.
And as she likes to remind everybody, I'm colorblind, so she's just like, it was purple.
No help.
That's all. What shade of purple? What's good need for? Ask Rachel.
There is many shades of purple.
Yeah, that's light purple, dark purple. That's all that you need to know. That's
we love that. I mean, outside of the Back to your original question, outside of the bodybuilding world, it's still relevant about the bikini colors as well, because that's definitely a big part of your life. Picking the fun components of when you worked really hard. Yeah, the bikini color it's an important part of you showing the work that you've done, but also you can add fun to anything that you're doing. So it's a lovely
Chris, I like her.
metaphor for absolutely
I,
lovely metaphor for life.
I've clearly been outvoted, but I'm used to that around here, so that's how things go.
But before we go too much further, though, I do have something to admit. I did have an orange bikini. There
I did,
are
yeah.
photographs of it.
I did
Very
see that, and I did notice that on your face when we were talking about it, and I was like, oh, Chris didn't realize. But no, I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of the orange bikinis on like 99.9% of competitors.
It's okay.
I'm colorblind.
ChatGPT told me that my colors are not orange, even though it's my favorite color, and I'm wearing a little bit of a burnt orange today. It's like not my color, so I
Uh,
agree with you. So
Offstage
does
is different.
ChatGPT. So
And we
does
don't argue with
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. We don't argue with ChatGPT.
So outside of the world of bodybuilding, you can use bodybuilding as a vehicle to make you better at everything, which is a big claim. I don't like these kind of dogma claims that are out there, but if you take a lot of the things that make you good in bodybuilding or that you're perfecting in bodybuilding, which is, you know, say someone had a bad week with their diet, not me, I made everything a system, but say someone had a bad week with their diet, reevaluating at the end of the week or at the end of the day so that you don't take that into the next day and saying, how can I make this so difficult to get wrong that it's like harder to get it wrong than to get it right? Talking about that friction again. So, how do I make it so that it's easier to do the thing that I need to do than not? So, for Chris drinking water, that's have water beside where he's sitting, because all of a sudden it's a visual cue and it's easier to drink water than it would be if there was like
Look,
water in
it
another
worked
place.
again.
Yeah,
Subliminal suggestions.
it's amazing. This is not sponsored by SodaStream, by the way, just in case guys you were wondering.
Actually, no, this is ugly face hydrate.
I
I'll
thought so.
start wearing a paper.
So some of those things you can pull from outside of bodybuilding, but one thing that I will also say is it's interesting on the other side of bodybuilding, after you've been out of it for a couple of years, is whilst you always thought that you had it together, you were the only one that didn't, get brain fog because you were competing and dieting. You start looking back at the times where you were like thinking, these photos I felt so fluffy in, and you're like, telling people how you had such a bad day because you looked so flat or fat or something like that. And then literally a couple of years later, you look at it and you go, I was so striated that it was almost a problem. So like learning the different seasons of
It's like
yourself, it's such an
fluffy.
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
You don't know who the fuck if
Taking
you
off the
fluffy.
prep goggles.
Yeah. No.
There's literally this photo shoot I did for a magazine where, like, I don't hold much weight on my face, right? But when I'm lean, I can get very lean, and it just shows like the underside of the
Oh,
cheekbone
yeah.
there, right? And there's one of the photo shoots I did for a magazine that was actually in an advertisement, and I said, I feel like they're doing this on purpose. That photo is not my favorite. I look so fluffy in it, and I did not. I look back now and I'm like, I look
Cheekbones like
so
this.
shredded. Yeah, like you could see the underside of the cheekbone as well, and you could see like, where my teeth
Oh,
were in
the
my
little
jaw
gap,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah, and you have, where this part gets really, really
Oh,
lean.
yeah, the vein, yeah.
And also for most girls, that bit around their sternum where it gets like really lean there, there's like this kind of like
That little dent.
concave bit. Yeah. And so I was like that in the photo shoot. And at the time I was going, no, I look so terrible. And then years later, I look at it and I'm like, I am so striated there. It's almost a problem. Like, I don't know why someone didn't say something to me.
Yeah. Somebody was going, give that girl a cheeseburger for Christ's sake. Look at her. Jeez. But I think what you said was like being successful in bodybuilding doesn't mean where you place. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean what
no.
your medal was or the result was. To have a successful career in bodybuilding and then take those skills. And I think a lot of people get hung up in that. It's like, you are only as good as that medal or that placing.
Mm,
Where, as Rachel and I have talked about numerous times, the only thing that you can control in this sport is what you bring to the stage. Everything
exactly.
else, like the placing, whatever, is completely out of your control. And if you're hanging your success and your personal happiness going forward on I didn't win,
Mm.
well, that actually doesn't make you a good bodybuilder. And to be a competitive bodybuilder, you have to look past the results. And I think that's when that becomes part of your identity, there's an issue.
Yeah, and I think one of the most controversial posts I put online at the time, because I was like an influencer before they were called influencers. Um,
Yes,
yeah,
I remember.
I
Before it was
wrote
cool.
that, yeah, I wrote that you don't actually learn anything from winning all the time because, first of all, you don't have that growth where you're up against someone who's really challenged you and posing, for example, that sort of thing. Your standards don't feel like they're being checked from the outside as well as from the inside. And so if you're constantly winning all the time, you don't learn as much as when you got second or you got fourth on this show and now you're able to look back and go, this is why, and this is what I'm going to do to change that. Like it gives you a better growth mindset to not always be getting that gold trophy. Don't hold me to this. Like if I ever compete again and you're like, well, we're not going to give you gold because you obviously don't like
You
it.
said you said it didn't matter, so therefore,
I know, but the
bronze.
key here is all the time. If you just get the one, it's different, you know. No,
Yeah.
I used to experience the same with I used to do a lot of swim coaching, and even because I used to be a teacher in schools, like the kids who were naturally gifted at things and they were constantly at the top of whatever they were doing, they were usually actually the laziest.
Yeah.
And they did not put anywhere near as much work or thought in as the kids who were constantly like in that second place. The one, honestly, I think the person who's constantly second is always going to be the hardest worker because they're really fighting for that top place. Nobody wants to be second all the time. You want to be
Yeah.
first when you've been second a few times. Like second is great, but once you've done it a few times, you're like, but I want to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we talked about that with one of our athletes, Natalia, who we refer to her as the goddess. She's like one of those
She is.
genetically, she's just like a,
But she
walks in
doesn't
and
know
everybody's.
it
She says it's lighting, and we tell her that the lighting obviously follows her
because
because
she's a
Yeah.
goddess.
photos is a goddess. So it's like, oh.
The halo.
But one of the best things I think that's happened to her is that she did not win this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just like, and I guess Fiona's another classic example. She's always, the poor girl can't buy a trick. It's just like every time she just gets nailed. But the mindset and the drive and the focus that gives them from not being first all the time you just have to admire people who go, right, dust that off, back to work. I've always said hard work with a modicum of talent will beat the most talented person in the world
It's
because that
true.
talent person will rely on it. They won't have the systems, they won't have the drive because they have the
Yeah.
expectation that they will win.
Yeah.
So sometimes a kick in the head is good.
Yeah, they learn to be lazy. Exactly. I'm not saying all people that are talented are lazy. That's not what I'm saying. Don't misquote me.
Common.
You got to have
You gotta have
both. You got to have talent and you got to have the work ethic. One without the other is just not going to work.
both.
So when you're working with different people and mentoring thing, so you're still doing some one-on-one work, obviously, with people. If, say, from a competitor perspective, and that personality is it's just prep and macros. That's their world. How do you help widen their world? Does that make sense?
For this is for coaches or is this for working with people one on one?
Working with people one-on-one.
Working with people one on one. So as a background to working with people one on one, I made the decision to work with a handful of select people to continue working with them so that I stay current because in my heyday, used to go on so many courses and pay so much money, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 to be mentored by really great people. And I had one that told me that if women lift heavy on their period, they would like prolapse their insides. And I asked my dad about it and he like because I couldn't find it and I asked them for references and they wouldn't tell me. And then I asked my dad about it and he is a physio and he said, well, in the 80s they used to think that, but they stopped teaching it like in the 80s. And so this person obviously for like 40 years has not been working with people. And so I made this sort of chip in my shoulder being like, I need to keep working with people so I can stay current and stay relevant so that I'm not that person delivering false information. So when it comes to training people to widen their world, there's actually they become laser focused on the macros. They become laser focused the macros that I set, for example, if they're competing, and they become laser focused on the exercise. But the thing is, these people are not operating in a vacuum. And I still get people that want to compete that are maybe they're holding down a career, they've got kids, they're married, that sort of thing. And so within that, it's also about building things into their lifestyle, just like you would with any other client. It's just you have to get a little bit more creative with how you do it because eating out of a Tupperware box while the rest of the family's enjoying something can be like quite isolating for a family for, 26 weeks. Depends how long they need to diet for, but it can be quite isolating for 26 weeks. So thinking about a little bit wider than that, how can we make it something that, say, they just adapt slightly for portions so that it works for their family to eat at the same time, like maybe the kids get dessert after and you don't. That sort of thing, for example. And also working out how to make it so that the person's not just completely vacating their life in order to put everything around competing. Because if you're not getting paid for this, if your paycheck is actually coming from like another job, you still have to function at that job, and you also still have to function for the family that's supporting you. So some of the ways that I build this in for clients that have to get their steps up, for example, is I love treadmill tasks. So get a treadmill, you get a list of things for the day that you maybe needed to do at a computer, but you could actually still do on your phone. Walking on the treadmill while doing the tasks that you could actually achieve on your phone. And now you look up and you've done like 65 minutes and you're like, oh, I was only supposed to do 60. Great. That sort of stuff. But thinking of ways that you can build it into the person's lifestyle so that it expands outside of it, not just in like things are more meaningful outside, but also it builds that bridge between competing life and also being able to have a partner, have a family, that sort of thing, so that it is more accessible. And in saying this, I'm not saying that people should be like, yeah, I'm just not going to do my steps today because my kids are more important and I'm going to show up and be 40% body fat on the stage. That's not what this is at all. But it's in how do we get someone still achieving the same results while still achieving all the things in their life that made them who they were.
That reminded me of my question,
Okay.
which I wrote down. I don't know if you saw. I wrote it down.
Oh
my God, great.
I thought she was taking notes.
Yeah, I was writing down my question. So, bodybuilding is quite all-consuming. So it does get to a point where people can get very obsessive with it. It becomes kind of everything. And it does get very hard to get your personal life kind of in order. And it becomes a huge part of your identity and personality. How did you move on from that after retiring? Because that's obviously a really tricky thing for a lot of people. And a lot of people feel really lost after moving on from bodybuilding, or like they have this dead set retiree thing. How do you then, I guess, restructure your identity after kind of moving on from bodybuilding? Sorry, that's a big one.
But
You wrote
restructure
all of that
identity.
down, and you must take really quick notes. Because
It was bullet points. It was bullet points.
Okay, good. Just to
These are in-depth questions. I love them. So one of the things for me is like, if you even listen to how I described, if I ever get on the stage again, that sort of thing, is you don't have to close the door completely and be like, I am now no longer this person and like that ship has sailed, whatever. You can still get back to bodybuilding at any time. It's still going to be there for you. And there are potentially some people out there that are doing back-to-back shows. And this is not on you, Rachel, doing your 6 shows in 1 year, because I actually think I did more shows. This is not a competition, but I think I did more shows in 1 year, which let's
It's not a
not look
competition,
back.
but I win.
Yeah. It's
Don't
it's a
give her
bad
ideas.
competition. It's a bad competition to be in because if you look back, I did quite a number of shows back to back, and I was able to structure it so that it didn't become all consuming for me. For example, when I understood macros properly, there were things like I would still be able to go to team dinners, for example, and the set menu. I knew what I could have on the plate and how much I could have of each thing on the plate. Whereas a lot of other people that might be at the same dinner would be ordering egg whites at a steak restaurant, where they would be bringing like a Tupperware box with them. And whilst it does also depend on the category that you're doing as well, I think finding, just like we talked about before, finding ways to incorporate things into your lifestyle for you, not just because your whole identity has to be bodybuilding and you're going to keep prepping as if you're bodybuilding, but you're not, but more in the sense of like, you still should go to the gym after you finish bodybuilding. You still should eat a healthy diet after you finish bodybuilding. Where it kind of trails off, you get a kind of fork in the road where it's still healthy habits, but now it changes to being more wellness driven, is portion sizes, for example, and things like giving yourself a little bit more looseness off the lead in terms of not weighing your food for a bit and then maybe recalibrating after a month, because it's really easy to get into that, oh, let's not eat too much mindset. So you eyeballing 100 grams becomes you've actually only had 60, but you think you've had 100 grams, that sort of thing. Learning enough about yourself in the competing season where you know where your hangups are, where you know hey, I'm someone who might undereat because secretly I'm like, yeah, but sometimes when I go to restaurants, I have an extra bite and I need to account for that extra bite. It sounds so ridiculous, but if you are that way inclined, then you've got to monitor and make sure you're eating enough. And then if you're the other way inclined where you're like, well, now all bets are off, and anything that's not nailed to the counter, I'm eating, including, last year's trick-or-treating chocolate that is probably got something growing on it, then,
Maybe on the outside.
just on the outside, just cut it off, whatever. But it's working out which one that you are during your season because, people get really deep in their head. And that often happens when people are competing, and using that time then to learn enough about yourself so you can work out, hey, I've got the tendency to be like this. So let's steer us back into how we were before, which is we exercise, we still followed a healthy diet. It's just now we don't have to weigh all of the food all the time, and maybe we don't need to do cardio and the gym as well, those sorts of things. And then, I mean, my identity for the hardest thing to get rid of for me was like tanning as often because I'm such a pale person.
I feel you.
Again, that's not your fault. That's the Irish genetics.
It's
That's
just
the card you got dealt with. That's
genetic.
Valerie.
Yeah. So
Rachel
yeah.
is the exact same. She doesn't. We don't tan Rachel. We dip her.
See, yeah, I struggled with this when I quit swimming because I swam in an outdoor pool. So I used to have this really, like, all year round golden strong tan because it was like 4 hours a day in an outdoor pool.
Wow,
And then,
that's a lot.
yeah. So I used to be the most tan person. And then now I'm, yeah.
Not so much now.
I
The
am so
spray
pale.
gun looks at Rachel and then the tan just soaks in. It's like you're just spraying. It's like, where is it going? It's like this stuff is black. Why are you still white? This makes no sense.
That's
I
me.
really
It's like the white wall.
I really like what you said though about you don't have to completely close the door because I feel like a lot of people have this big thing that it's like a switch and
Yeah.
it's like it's over, my competing is done, I'm never competing again. Like you don't have to announce anything. Like a lot of people I guess they feel pressured that you have to announce if you aren't planning to compete again. You don't. You can always, like, the stage will always be there. My goal is to compete when I'm like a grandma, like 60, and just be like boss ass grandma up on stage. That is my goal. But like, yeah, you
Exactly.
don't have to like
Your
announce that
grandchildren
you're
will be on
retiring.
there.
Yeah, no, that is what it is. I'll just make sure I can look like I can beat up all their friends, and that is peak right there.
That'll probably go a long way.
But
Yeah.
no, I just think that's so cool. Like you don't have to, close it off. You don't have to end that part of your identity. It's like literally just you don't have a show in mind basically, and now you're basically in just like an unending off season with more flexibility.
Exactly. Although some people might feel called out by this, but I feel like the bodybuilders then turn to something like a high rocks or like a Ironman competition.
Because we're
And
so obsessive.
yeah,
That's why I went from swimming to bodybuilding because swimming is also like you're training like twice a day every day.
yeah, exactly. And so
You've got to
some
find
people
something
just
else.
switch it to like something else, which I mean, it's switching one thing for another thing. You have to ask why you stopped bodybuilding. Is it because you're training twice a day and now you're going to be training twice a day because you're doing an Ironman competition or something like that?
It's a
It's about learning
transition.
these things. Yeah,
And yeah,
transitioning.
taking the lessons that you're learning from it as well. Like you said, like you've learned about your body, you've learned about what what kind of foods that your body likes, how much food does your body like, how much should you be eating, and then taking that on to the rest of your life so that you can be living a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly. And also that knowledge that people get with like, I can actually, if there's any season of their life where they put on weight, it's kind of like there's this extra knowledge that you have for yourself where you're like, I can lose
You know,
it
you can
again.
lose
That's
I always
freeing.
say once a bodybuilder, always a bodybuilder. You just may not be a competitive bodybuilder.
You can never look at food the same.
No, I can't
I
look
will
at chicken the same now.
Or like sweet food mostly though, like you can't look at a cake the same way ever again once you learn about like macros and stuff. Like you just look at it and you're like, it's just not worth it.
I can't say I've ever looked at a piece of cake and gone, "You're not worth it."
Really awesome. Like you see those like
But I have a
store-bought
sweet-
muffins and they're like 400
Okay.
calories
Yeah,
and you're like,
okay.
it's just not worth like 300 grams of rice. It's not worth it.
No, that's true. Or the 4 hours of cardio that it'll make you do for eating it.
Well, to Rachel's piece that she just said there, when it comes to dieting guys down versus dieting females down, 400 calories for a
Oh, yeah, for a
guy
guy is
in
a
the
bit different.
overall grand scheme of things compared to Rachel, who might be, it depends how low she has to go for her calories. Like, you don't have to share them. It's like asking a woman her
Oh
age.
no, generally
But
my problem is I need to eat more. So I'm actually doing the
Right.
opposite, and I'm finding the foods with the most calories and sending them to Chris and being like, so should I eat this in season?
And I'm like, yep, please.
yeah, eat that one too. My favorite thing is though, when I'm at a gym, people are always intrigued if I'm the new person there, which I always am because I'm traveling around. They'll be like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, "Guess." And when I get them to guess, I know that they think that I'm probably looking a little bit chunky if I say that, and this is not against CrossFitters at all, but I'm not looking at as lean, but I'm still looking muscular when they're like, "You're a CrossFitter." But then when they say you're a bodybuilder, I'm like, they must think I look lean. Like,
You're like, thank you. Yeah, I work out.
That's what I want. I
yeah,
want people to look at me and think that I'm a bodybuilder because at the moment I just get the like eyes up and down, like, no, you're not. You do like marathons or something, and I'm like,
Well, we've had this discussion frequently with about Rachel, Susan. It's Rachel puts on a bikini and her glutes grow. It's
oh
weird.
my God,
I
that's
It's like
awesome.
she puts on and it's like, what the how? It was
I don't
anyway.
know how.
That's
But
it's a
anyway,
physical and not. It's one of those like Twilight Zone things. Anyway, we
Amazing.
should sort of move along a little bit. What we're going to talk about the industry in general. Obviously, you've been in the health, fitness, physical industry now for an extended period of time, shall we say?
hmm
How has the industry changed, for better or worse, in the last 5 years?
Well, that's 5 years. Goodness, I was going to give you the first example that always comes to my head, which is a bit longer ago, is gyms always used to have a gym instructor. And I have been
Mm,
talking about this on LinkedIn, and it used to be the way that if you were new to the industry,
yeah.
it wasn't quite a mentorship, but it was a good way in so that you
it was an
could,
introduction.
it was an
Mm,
introduction and you would be able to talk to people, learn how to build a
Yep.
rapport with people. And then they got rid of that job in big box gyms. And it's probably someone at the top that's like, let's cost cut. Look, we've saved all of this money. But the detriment has been that now you've got PTs that don't have that in. They've done, say, a 12-week course and they just want to learn more. But now they really have to look for somewhere that they can actually learn more. They can't do it through the traditional means or by accident that you used to have to do.
mm,
So that would be one of the first ones. But more in the 5 year mark, it's definitely changed more towards like longevity and wellness are the buzzwords. So this I find really interesting because on my travels to different countries, working with different gyms in different countries, learning about culture nuance, that sort of thing, is when I visit the States, they are so good with removing friction for customers. And I love that component for it. And you go there and you're just like, wow, like every single thing that would be a task for the customer and get in the way of them spending money, like they remove it. And I love that component. It's so exciting as a business owner to see that. And then when it comes to say being in Bali, for example, the cost of, overhead cost of starting a business that is based on your idea is lower. So you get all of these really cool concepts that happen before the rest of the world. So they've got like a cafe that's a coaching cafe. So it's a cafe, but coaches come and give talks, which I think is really
oh, cool.
cool. Or yeah, you've got like bars that are in swimming pools. I mean, that's probably been done quite a bit. But then the other one that they have is they've had gyms with wellness and recovery attached for a very long time. So you've got like a co-working space, you've got, your ice baths, you've got saunas, like that's been part of their gym model for a very long time. And now we're getting different parts of the world being like, we're exclusive because we have recovery at the same time. Now, the interesting thing that I see with where that's headed is, and this is part of my AHA model, that it's become this duct tape approach to just fitness. So they've just taken, let's get some ice baths. We're just going to duct tape that on to like a high intensity interval training class. And then we're going to duct tape, those vibration
Mm,
machines and the booties and stuff like that. So this has come into the wellness space now where there's become this duct tape approach. But wellness and longevity is where it's headed. It's just the consumer right now, because it's moving so rapidly, doesn't necessarily understand what either of those two mean. And for example, I was talking to a client this morning and I said, it's unusual to me for a gym in Melbourne to be offering recovery as well as offering all of these classes, which include trampolining, and saying that we're really wanting to create a membership for the community when these memberships are like $150 each. Somebody who is like new to exercise is not going to be as interested in paying $150 a week. And they're also not going to be as interested in recovery fitness as well, because they just don't have time. And my client said something really interesting. She said, yes, and if it's someone like that, they don't work hard enough to recover. And I was like, wait, hold on, let's go back here. Everything in life, especially stress capacity, is built on your ability to recover what you're doing. Exercise, nutrition, all of that feeds into how do we build the capacity so that our battery is always charged. And so arguably people who are working out less, who are getting into fitness, probably need recovery more to bring down those stress levels so that they can actually achieve more from their exercise. So a long answer to your question, but I think this is super fascinating where we're at the moment, because we're moving really fast as an industry, but we haven't really educated the general public out there about what any of this stuff does, why you would do it, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing back here in New Zealand now, a lot of gyms are adding in this wellness and recovery side, the infrared saunas, the ice baths, and so on. But it's a premium upgrade for their membership. So the standard membership is, say, $26 a week, which still is fairly high for a gym in New Zealand. But if you want to make use of this premium upgrade, the membership's $54 a week. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of people saying, okay, that recovery and longevity and wellness stuff is there, but to spend that kind of money on a weekly membership is like, to me, it's kind of like, I think gyms need to, if they're charging a premium price, then that is part of their package. This whole add-on, where it's just like, this is the gym. This is what you get. It's like joining Les Mills and not getting the group fitness classes. We all know most people go to Les Mills for the group fitness classes.
Group fitness classes, yeah.
But, they have their membership price, and then people, balk at that, but yet they'll spend $80 a week to do F45.
Yeah.
It's confusing as well, like, because you don't know what you, like, when you go into the gym sometimes you don't know if you're supposed to be paying extra for something or not, so sometimes you feel a bit more restricted because you're like, I don't want to go in there just in case I'm not allowed in there. Like, it gets a little bit like...
Yeah, I've seen that play out in real time. There was one place that it was like a fingerprint that you got into certain areas over others because you're like paying one versus the other. And I agree with you, there can be that kind of restriction. But I think even with gym models and recovery, I think, they're inviting people with that extremist attitude where it's like, the more recovery, the better. And it's like, if you give people access to unlimited recovery and you don't teach them about it, which I teach people about it, you get people that are like, if 1 minute in the ice bath is good, well, 10 minutes must be better. But if you get that happening at scale with all of your 100 gym members, there's actually no chance to clean, but also if you've got an ice bath that has capacity for one person at a time, well, now the person's like, it's too busy. Don't know why I'm paying this extra membership because I don't have access to it. So you're right. They have to work out their offering. And this is going back to that duck tip approach. They have to work out what their offering is. And to be honest, I actually spoke about this 2 years ago at the New Zealand Fitness Conference, and about complementary and alternative therapies that you can use to help your clients, and ice baths, and how you can bring community into that. And so many people in the audience, when it came to question time, were like, but this is New Zealand. It's not going to come to New Zealand. Like, when do you think that? And I was like, it's already here, mate. I've already seen it happening. And the next year or so, it's going to be the rapid proliferation of this recovery. And yeah, it has been, because you can see it working in other countries, and it's just Australia, New Zealand, when it starts, it just goes exponentially if it's a concept that works. It's just sometimes it's kind of people are learning on their feet, like, should we really offer this as a premium offering? And should we really let people come as often as possible when they don't know what they're doing with it?
Well, it comes down to education, doesn't it? Just because you have it doesn't mean people are going to use it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we should move on to our rapid fire one. This is always fun part. So we have a series of questions for you. Now, you're not allowed to think about the answers.
Oh, no.
And you're only allowed 20 seconds for each question. So it's very quick. Okay. Well, I'll go with Rachel, and I will alternate between each one of these. I'll start with the first one. This is easy. It's up your alley. What is your favorite movement pattern?
Oh, like a lunge.
She didn't say Bulgarian, Rachel.
She didn't say Bulgarian, but that's pretty close. It's pretty close. I don't know about that one. No, love hate. Most overrated fitness trend.
Overrated fitness trend. Oh, there's so many. Recovery when you don't know what to do with it. There's nuance in everything that I talk about. Recovery when you don't know what to
That's
do
it.
with it.
I was like, yeah, just note down that one. All right, next one. What secret skill do you have outside the industry?
Outside the industry. I mean, like, I used to do Irish dancing for like 9 years, so I brought like my musicality and that sense of fun into taking Greek fitness classes. Yeah, but
That's pretty good.
I've
probably,
seen
yeah,
videos of your Zumba classes.
yeah,
They
yeah.
they
There's a lot.
I am very like I saw about the nightclub Zumba class and I was like I am
Yeah.
unsurprised that that works. That is just yes.
It was really fun when I designed the concept for this because literally people were like, I'm gonna come and film your class because this is like the way it should be done. But did you know for these classes, you actually when you get that number of people in there, you actually need to get this compliance with the council because everybody jumping at the same time,
Same
like the
time.
windows, like go like this. See, I didn't know this. Like this is stuff
yeah.
that I learned on the fly.
There you go.
That honestly though, that's just like amazing. I'm just thinking of like yeah, students everywhere, especially in Dunedin. I can yeah.
Yeah. As a
Okay.
side note, I don't know how I had this like insight at the time when I was much younger is when I was at uni, I was thinking I only have so much time to work. So I've got to pick the things that I think are really fun or I'd
Yeah.
be doing it anyway. So I became like a promo ambassador for, a brand company so that I could go to events and festivals for free. I could, not
Yes.
have to queue. Yeah. And then of course, every single thing that I was doing, I was like, how do I get paid the most for the least amount of time so I could do more fitness related stuff when I'm launching my business?
Brilliant.
Well done.
All right. A very important one. Coffee order.
It depends what country I'm in. If I'm
Okay, that's
somewhere
good.
that's got a Vietnamese egg coffee, it's salted, I will do it. And it took me a long time to come to terms with like actually ordering one to try it, but it is amazing. In any other country, I love an iced long black. And then on top of it, I get some whipped cream. So I've got like the good fats to go with like the caffeine. That would be like my ultimate one. But if I'm in Vietnam or somewhere that has Vietnamese coffee and it's the egg coffee, like, let's get.
I have to try that next time. All right, a celebrity or athlete that you'd love to work with.
Oh, that's really difficult. I just don't know names of people. You know, I'm going to go back to Steve Cook, and I would love to work with him on like social media stuff because I feel like it's so natural to him. He's grown up behind the camera, but I would love to do some exercise stuff with him because I know he had a few injuries going on, that sort of thing. Rehab specialist here. It's like, I just want to help him with that.
There you go, Steve. He's actually got a gym in Utah now, I believe.
Yeah, he's got a
But he spends
gym.
half his time in Australia though, because his wife's Australian. All right, Richard,
Yeah.
what have you got?
This could be entertaining. Worst advice you've ever heard in the gym.
Like there's so much bad advice in the gym. It would just be like really hard to think what the worst advice is. I know when I was competing, I had people that came up to me that were like, the way you look is really feminine. I just hate when people look like a striated rat, but you don't look like a striated rat. So good job. So
Straight
that was,
rat.
yeah, so that was one of them. And then another one when I had loaded up on some salt and water because I was like hydrating, electrolytes. And someone in the gym after I'd competed came up and rubbed my stomach and asked when my due date was. And I was like, I feel so violated right now.
Everybody knows that's just shut up. If you go, no, just
It wasn't even a joke either. I was like, oh wow. Also, you touched my stomach. Now I know how pregnant people feel when they get touched without being asked. Like, it's so weird. Yeah.
So yeah, first you got told basically it's so good that you work out but you don't look like a man, and then you
Yeah.
got told like, oh great, you're pregnant, congratulations. Like
I would have been on the floor in hysterics. I would have been, oh, you were so dead. Yeah, so dead. What have we got here? Okay, let's see. All right, favorite bikini color? Can't say orange.
Man, that would have been mine. I had a nice green one that I wore to Northlands that I would definitely wear again. Whereas the other ones, I had a yellow one at one point, and like when a little bit of tan goes on it, oh, it looks so bad. Like I'm not into that anymore.
as soon as somebody tells me they are thinking about getting a yellow bikini, I'm like, no, no, you're not.
Yeah, yeah, but never
Yeah,
again. The green one was my favorite one.
yeah, green's a good color. Green is a good color, and also Irish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
orange.
sparkles, always sparkles on it is the best.
It's got to have sparkles. It's all about the sparkles.
Maximum sparkles. All right. Who is your favorite bikini competitor?
We know you did some research because I saw your story. You were watching the Olympia.
Well, Ashley Coldwater or Nathalia Mello, because both of them
Oh, you are going back.
well, Nathalia Mello, she actually married like a Northern Ireland rugby player. So I actually like went and worked out with her in a gym in Northern Ireland. So she has a special place in my heart. I also loved her look as well, her glutes, everything. But she did do a lot of running, and I'm not super into running.
We're going to have to go look her up.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What do we got here? One supplement that you think is a complete waste of money?
The right supplement for the right person is good. I would not go L-carnitine. I'd go acetyl L-carnitine. But do your research on it, because L-carnitine, if anybody has any slight, even functional thyroid issues, it will make you even worse. So people don't realize that with sports supplements, there's quite a lot that can happen if you don't quite know your own body and then know what the supplement can do. Just because it's at a supplement store doesn't mean it's safe.
This is true. Yes.
Especially because it's marketed as a weight loss supplement as well.
Yes, and also L-carnitine that's available in the supplement store has a bioavailability of next to nothing, so it's a waste of time. All right.
It smells like fumes as well.
All right, this one's a fun one. What's your favorite like workplace destination that you've been to? Like favorite country that you've remotely worked from?
Oh, so difficult. I would say, I'm gonna say maybe Bali's my favorite. Is probably, yeah, only because all of the things that I need, like the Wi-Fi is good, like all of this stuff. And there's a lot of places that are really set up for you working on location. Whereas, some of the other places might have been the towns I was staying in, it was harder to find both cafes you could work in, workspaces that you could go to, that sort of thing. So Bali probably is my final answer.
And also then when you're not working, it's Bali.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, Thailand's pretty up there for me too. Love Thailand. And Vietnam is really great as well, if you guys ever get the chance to go.
You're just going for the coffee now. We now know the truth.
Yeah,
don't go to Hong Kong for the coffee. Hong Kong does not have good coffee.
No.
And it's like $12 in Hong Kong. It's like $12.
So hard to find a good coffee shop. Like we have found a couple of good coffee shops, and we will travel on the train like 20-30 minutes to go to that coffee shop every day.
Yeah. Like I'm not being stingy here. I'm like, if I'm paying $12 for a coffee, I want it to be good. Like I don't want it to be where I'm like,
yeah, they don't have good coffee there. They're all about the tea.
they do a lot of good things, but just not coffee.
Not coffee. Can't do everything. Can't do. All right. Well, that's enough of those rapid ones. I guess what we want listeners or viewers or what to take away from today is obviously competing can teach you discipline, resilience, and obviously systems. Can teach you more than just how to prep your body, and that your health actually matters more than your macros. So if you take anything away from today, hopefully what people are going to take away is that building systems, not chaos, is going to be something that they can do. And obviously, if you want to find more, look up Dr. Susan Baxter. She's on, the website is, remind me again.
Doctors.
There we go. I knew I had the squad. We'll put that in the link anyway. So, Susan, anything in closing that you want to tell us? Like, obviously, where we can find you, we know it's drsusansquad.com. How do we find you? And anything else you want to share about what's going on in your little world for the rest of the year? I know you're heading back to New Zealand at some stage, not too distant future, but let's take it away for a little bit, and then we'll wrap up and let everybody go home.
Gosh. Okay. So thanks for having me. It's between now and the end of the year for me. It's another 4 conferences. At second half of my year, I've had 7 conferences in total. So that's pretty exciting. I get the opportunity to speak in front of different audiences in different countries. So amazing. And one of them will be in New Zealand. One of them will be in Perth. One of them's online. And one of them's back to Melbourne again. So I don't usually have them in such rapid succession, but they are at the end of this year. And yeah, so if you wanted to come along to any of them, make sure to reach out on social media, of course, as well, and say hello if you enjoyed the episode.
We will make sure that we put the links in for those below as well. Rachel, anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. It's really cool to have you on, because I know that you don't always accept people's requests to do speaking and podcasts. We feel very honored to just have you here. Hopefully we've made the most of your time, because we have been recording for a little while. We tend to be chatty.
I loved it. It was great. It was the reason why I chose this podcast.
We feel special. Well, thank you for hanging out with us today in the Macro Lounge. If you like this episode, make sure you follow us on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. And as always, you can catch our best, or in this case could be some disaster moments, on Instagram at macro_lounge/podcast. And a huge thanks to Dr. Susan Baxter for joining us today.
Thank you.
As I said, she was the first person we invited, and she's the first Irish person we've had on, first person from the South Island. She's the first Highlander we could technically claim. There's a lot of firsts, really. It's so pretty.
Should have worn that Highlander shirt.
Exactly. So thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next Saturday back here at the Macro Lounge podcast. And until then, have a great week.
Enjoy.
Thank you.